Yes, Waiting on Baby. Have you watched our episodes on Waiting on Baby? If you haven't, please go back, watch Waiting on Baby, and this is our last episode on that. As we close, we are talking to the gynecologist, a fertility specialist, who is going to explain the causes and the solutions of infertility, waiting on baby, baby angels, whatever you call it. But before that, I want to thank you so much for watching, for sticking with us, for liking, for commenting, for sharing. You're the best. Please continue sharing with anyone you know that would benefit in our content. Today, we are here and we want to talk to Dr. Herbert. How are you?
I'm fine.
Is it okay if I call you doctor, or Herbert would do?
Yeah, any can do. So I'm
Okay.
Herbert, I'm a doctor, so I'm Dr. Herbert Kayiga. Yeah.
No, I would suggest you introduce yourself.
Yeah. So thank you very much for this opportunity to just be meeting you and talking about infertility. I'm Dr. Herbert Kayiga. I'm a gynecologist. I also teach the medicine, and I can say I'm also a fertility specialist. So I'm very excited to be here and to try to answer some of the key concerns that you could be having. So it's a pleasure to meet you.
I'm sure my viewers are very happy to hear from you, Dr. Herbert, and I think they're waiting, because previously we talked to women who have been in the waiting journey, those who have lost babies to miscarriages, stillbirths, those who waited for 10 years and all that. But we needed to hear from a doctor. What are the causes, the biggest causes, or the not known causes of infertility? Why do people go through all those years without babies?
So thank you very much for that question. You know, infertility comes with the emotional touch. You know, we all anticipate that once you get married, it's the happy thereafter. You think babies are going to be obvious, and sometimes they actually take long. I remember in my prime years when I got married, I thought I would get a baby immediately, and the baby came after 2 years. So there are various reasons that can lead to a couple taking longer to have children, and some of these can be about a third can be a woman's problem, another third can be a man's problem. Sometimes in this other last third, you could have some of the problems being both the woman could be having a problem and then also the man. And then there is about 10 to 15% what we call unexplained infertility. When we run all the checkups, everything appears like it's normal, and yet for one reason or the other, the babies don't seem to be coming when anticipated.
So for women, what causes infertility?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very beautiful question. So God has created a woman to have different parts. We have an ovary, which produces the egg. The egg goes through the uterine tube or fallopian tube, then it goes to the uterus. Then from the uterus, that's where the baby grows. And thereafter, the baby would go through the cervix and the vagina, and the baby comes out. So at each and every one of these different points, a woman can have a problem. So if you are to look at the ovary would be like a switch. It's what is going, there is a lot of way the body is wired to be able to produce an egg every month.
And if it doesn't?
And so when a problem comes and you're unable to produce an egg every month, then you won't be able to get the baby. So some of these ones could be hormonal conditions. Some people are too big, others are very small.
Too big.
So when you're obese, or like when you're kilos, your body mass index.
Did you say too big?
Okay, when you're fat.
When you're fat, like munene.
Yes.
That could stop you from being
so that
pregnant?
can make you hard to conceive. And when you're underweight.
Too small.
Too small can also affect the switch in which you're able to produce eggs, and that can affect you. And some people have conditions which make them to skip periods for so long, like what we call polycystic ovarian syndrome. Others have brain challenges which make them to produce a hormone called prolactin, and because they produce prolactin too much in excess, it makes it very hard for them to kind of produce an egg monthly, and that can make it harder for them to conceive. Then other people, for example, have thyroid problem, or like goiter. In this way, you're having hyperthyroidism, where the thyroid gland seems to be acting very fast, or hypothyroidism when it's working at a low pace. So all this can make it very hard for you
to produce an egg.
Yes, and then also in the makeup of someone, some components of your body could be lacking, and because of this, you're unable to produce the right hormones at the right time. Yeah, but of course there are other conditions still in that area where, like, if someone is, for example, the Christians, when you overfast and the body is chronically stressed, it can make it very hard. When you're too stressed also, it can make it challenging sometimes for you to conceive. When you use drugs like when you smoke or when you use marijuana, these are some of the other components that can make it very hard for you to kind of like conceive, and you won't be able to produce an egg when you rightfully should produce an egg. So those are some of the issues with the ovary, but also
That is about the egg.
The egg. But then also there is a pipe or the conduit where the egg has to pass, what we call a fallopian
Or the tube, yes.
So quite a number of times, many women are concerned about not getting pregnant or getting HIV. But when you have a lot of episodes of unprotected sex, you can get infections, what we call sexually transmitted infections. It could be gonorrhea, it could be chlamydia, and some of these ones can go and block the tube. So because the tube is blocked, you will be able to produce an egg, but there is a wall between the egg and the sperm. So that makes it very hard to be able to conceive. So sometimes, because these tubes have been affected by these discharges, sometimes a lady is able to have a discharge which is having an offensive smell, but for one reason or the other you ignore it and there is an infection. So in our tube there is a way, like there is maybe like hair, it's supposed to propel the egg. So when you get these adhesions or like when you get these infections, the hair tends to stick together,
so it can't help the egg.
So this can make you to be at risk of getting things like ectopic pregnancy, or at worst, the water is able to accumulate in the tubes, and because of this, you won't be able to conceive.
Wow.
So then...
Wow. I'm failing to catch up, but I'm wondering, so if you have infections and you treat them, they leave that effect?
Of course, it depends on what extent you've been able to treat it. Because sometimes, because these infections don't seem to give you even symptoms, they could be there, and change of partners sometimes can predispose you, and because of this, the tubes can close off, and because of
change of partners. Please note in your notebooks.
Yes. So coming down, having gone through the tube, you can go to the uterus, and in the uterus, many things can happen. Sometimes women have what they call fibroids, and fibroids sometimes appear like they are stones within the wall of the uterus. Imagine a garden. If you're having many of these stones, the baby won't have where to grow. And then sometimes also in the creation, some women's uterus were unable to form properly, and because of that, that can make it also very hard for you to conceive. In the creation, or the way it was created, it can make it very hard for you to sustain a pregnancy, so you'll get recurrent miscarriages.
But why?
Yeah, so sometimes because of the drugs that we take while we are pregnant, you're taking this, everything appears like it's basic, yet it could have issues. And then sometimes also infections within the uterus can make someone to be at risk of getting these problems. For example, if someone has terminated a pregnancy, if they do not get the best medication, they can get more like scars, scars within the uterus, and this makes it very hard for the baby to find where to grow. So these adhesions sometimes can make the cervix to close off, or they can make the inner layer of the uterus to be not good for the baby to be able to attach and grow. So that can be quite interesting.
That is so scaring, Dr. Herbert. Now, for the uterus, I have heard a story of someone who said their uterus would not hold a baby because of high temperature. What's that? What's that?
Of course, not necessarily. They are not related, but of course, if you get an infection, the temperatures are going to be a bit different. That can affect. I've heard people talk about Nabuguma in Uganda, but sometimes some of these might not necessarily
cause
replay this side. Yes.
Sure, but you see, the thing is, when you go to hospital, as the doctors are trying to to break down, to make it simpler for us. The explanations they give us for not giving birth is you have blocked tube. They don't tell you what blocked the tubes.
Yeah, because usually this problem has happened way before, and that can be one of the reasons that it occurred way before in high school, that even when you're coming at 40, you might not be able to know which particular man you slept with, gave you which STI and which STI.
Did you hear? Particular man you slept with. Yes. Anyway, so what are the other causes?
So
as we're going to...
Yeah, so then the other causes, of course, the mucus sometimes, or the cervical mucus. The cervix has is like a guard. So sometimes when the mucus is hostile, and it's unable to allow a sperm to swim through.
Now, what would cause the hostility? Stress?
Yeah, some of these ones are within our makeup.
The hormones.
The hormones, sometimes it's because of, for one reason or the other. Like you see people who have like asthma. So sometimes we could have autoimmune conditions that can make the mucus to be hostile to the sperm, that for one reason or the other the sperm can't swim through readily, and many of the sperms are unable to go beyond.
For that, those are specific reasons for women for not giving.
But sometimes everything is right, but the timing is wrong.
Yes, because we have so many cases of people who have been to hospital and the doctor says everything is okay, but this person is not getting pregnant. So what would be the causes? As we are going for a break, we are coming back to continue. Please don't leave.
Obulamu obweyagaza butandika n'amaka amayooyoote obulungi. Tuukiriza ekirooto ky'okwezimbira ennyumba naffe ku ZEC Systems. Tukuleetedde Birds View Estate Kavule. Poloti zaffe nsava ate nga ssente ntono nnyo. Ku miliyoni 15 zokka weefunire poloti eya 5 ku 10. Poloti zaffe nteeketeeke bulungi kubanga amazzi n'amasannyalaze weebiri. Birds View Estate Kavule esangibwa ku Semuto Road kilomita 8 okuva e Matugga. Ate wulira kino, ensasula ya mpola mpola. Tulina ne poloti mu bitundu ebirala nga Bugema ku miliyoni 19, Dundu miliyoni 23, Namayumba miliyoni 8 ne Busiika miliyoni 17. Tukubireko oba tukyalire ku ofiisi zaffe e Matugga ne Kampala. ZEC Systems ku lw'enkulaakulanayo.
Yes, as we are continuing with Dr. Herbert on the causes of infertility. Dr. Herbert, we ended when you're talking about the mucus. When your mucus cannot allow the egg to meet the sperm. So, I mean, for different reasons, hormonal, or maybe you got a treatment. You even said some of you who sleep with so many men, be careful. Oh, that was so much. But what are the other causes?
So I think since infertility is quite interesting, and you said 1/3 would be women, so we can talk about the 1/3 of men. Sometimes men can have also problems, especially when you find that maybe to maintain an erection is an issue. It could be something that could signal to you.
Naye kyoba okiraba wali mu action ky'omuntu ekitamalaako.
We could just be telling that maybe because of stress, had you found me on another day, and so this could be signals also.
Okay.
And then also in the development, we have the testes, and if they're unable to calm down by the age of 2 years, it could affect a man.
So we need to check our baby boys.
Yes. And then also sometimes when a man has like swellings in the testes, what we call varicose vein, it can also make it harder for a man to have good sperms.
So men can start checking themselves.
Yes, so also men can check. There are also checkups which we do for men. And also when you notice that a man doesn't have a lot of features of men, like they don't have beards, they don't have deep voices, they don't have secondary characteristics, it could be a signal to you that sometimes something could be wrong. Because you need a hormone called testosterone to be able
to be a man.
To be a man.
So if you're a man, woman, like you're a bit feminine, have a big bum.
It might not necessarily.
You talk in a small voice.
Some of these characteristics could point to you that maybe there is something more to investigate. So then a little bit about the investigations. Of course, for a man, we're going to check the semen, and then we're going to check a bit of the hormones to know that the wiring is correct. If it's a woman, we might need to run some hormonal checkups, and these hormones, they help us to know whether there is any problem in their ability to produce an egg. Some are interested about the blood group. Because the blood group is important, but when a woman is rhesus negative, or when they tell you have a negative and your husband is positive, what is key is that when you conceive or when you get a miscarriage, we have to give you an anti-D injection to prevent you from killing the babies inside.
For those that have blood groups that are negative.
Yeah, which are incompatible
with the husband.
husbands.
So how does it happen? If your husband is a negative A, whatever, please explain.
So everyone is born with a particular blood group.
Yes.
This cannot be changed. This is within your genes. But for one reason or the other, when a woman is rhesus negative and the husband is positive, then the babies are going to be seen as foreign agents within the woman's body. So the body starts now to produce, because it sees it like as a germ or like something foreign, an enemy. So it starts fighting. So in the process, it can kill actually the babies inside.
And you keep
one
having
or the other, you keep getting babies dying inside, and that can be talked about infertility.
There is something else you talked about, PCOS.
So also the hormonal, I will try to talk about the switch. So in some women, because of their genes, they are unable to have a period every month, so they tend to skip. It's because of a condition called polycystic ovarian syndrome. It runs within genes. Sometimes a woman can also have quite a number of beards and boys, and some of these could be signals. Not everyone gets them, but it's one thing that could happen.
It's like as if you're a man, you have some male hormones.
Yeah.
So doctor, as we have noted that we have those problems, do we have some problems that cause infertility that are not science? Like my husband overbeats me. Could that be a cause for infertility?
So much as you would say.
Do you encounter such non-hormonal, non-science problems?
Yeah, of course, if you're, for example, God made our bodies that you should be, a woman was scheduled ideally to have children between like early 20s to early 34, maybe like up to 34. So the best time to a doctor would be between the late 20s and early 30s. But earlier than this, of course, the body is not fully developed. And after this, usually a woman's fertility falls markedly after 35 years. And usually we wouldn't encourage a woman who has taken over 6 months after 35 when she's able to have sex regularly. And regularly, if you're able to make love, you can make love every day. But in case it's not possible, every other day. And during the time of your fertile days, if it's a woman and your cycle is between 24 to 35 days, in the time of your ovulation, we would prefer that you make love before the day of ovulation and just shortly thereafter. And if you make love every other day, the sperm is going to be will be able to move faster. But when you take too long to make love, the sperms are a bit slower, and some can be dead, and it could compromise the ability.
So that's from the man's side.
Yeah, from the man's side. But when
so
you have
people who
less
are in
sex,
Dubai
then,
and they come back.
Yeah, it depends on where the man will find you. Otherwise, a woman produces an egg once, it lives for 12 to 24 hours. If there is no ready sperm, you have to wait for another man.
But you see now, my husband has been out of the country for 2 years, comes back for a month, the 1 month's leave, and we want to form a baby so that I'm pregnant as he goes back.
You make love as much as you can. Usually we recommend that if you can, have sex once daily. If you can't, at least every other day, which is about 3 times in a week.
For that month? For
that month. But your chances of conceiving is only 20%. So we expect that if a couple is able to have sex about 3 times in a week, by 3-4 months, the percentage is about maybe like 30 to 40. By the time it's 5 months of regular sex, it's 50%. By the time it's 1 year, it's about maybe 85 to 90%.
So for the frequency, when you have sex, the frequency of a man with the weak sperms because he has not been having sex?
Usually when you make love within you clear off that load and then
Oh,
you because a man manufactures sex.
Because I have a friend who is in that struggle right now, and I was just going to call her and tell her, Madam, continue the frequency to hourly. Anyway, so what other solutions do we have for those that have the science problems? Do we have those solutions even in Uganda?
So even before I go there, of course we've talked about the frequency of sex. Well, the other issue is you need to exercise, because too much is too bad when you exercise too much, but when you're overweight, it also makes it very hard for you to conceive. So it's important that you do exercises. This improves your ability to conceive. And then we also encourage you to eat healthy. We try to minimize the carbohydrates, the low-fat diet, because that makes it very hard for you to conceive. Then you try to minimize too much caffeine. We would like you to ensure that also in your day-to-day you avoid smoking, reduce the drinking, because alcohol makes it very hard for you to conceive. And then we would also like you to have a support system, because when you're stressed, then it makes it a little harder for you to conceive. So like I said about the investigations, of course when you know the truth, it sets us free. And what is the truth that is affecting you? One, where do you stand? Are you able to produce an egg? Do you have fibroids? And so all these ones, sometimes we do blood checkups, other special investigations, like we can do a scan to be able to know that there is a problem. We could be able to go beyond and do what they call laparoscopy, where we just look into someone's stomach, abdomen, and be able to know whether there is any particular problem.
Kakati problem, Dr. Herbert. All the things you're saying we are doing here in Malago, here in Uganda. Yes, actually, Dr. Herbert can do them to simplify the scope. My question is, at how much? Because that's also the other problem. Many of us, I think we've been struggling with the issue of money. One of the person I interviewed, she said she has loans after loans after loans because of the process of infertility.
So I think one of the key important issues is meet the right doctor, because...
So where do we meet the right doctor?
Of course, like when you go into hospital, you can see a gynecologist. When you come to hospital, you can see a nurse. We have different cadres and we have different level of expertise. But
now that I am aware that it's true for sure, Lois, I have a problem, I'm not giving birth, should I still go to the general doctor, or should I just look for a gynecologist?
It would be best to look for a specialist, because your problem is beyond the ordinary problem. So you don't want them to just give you folic acid alone. It's important to take folic acid, but I don't want you to be given medication. For example, we give you medication to increase your eggs, yet the problem is with the tube or with the uterus. So, but now until you get to know what the truth is, you're just going to waste more money. And some of the times, everyone has a problem not to have babies, but there are various causes. So if it's just with the ovulation, then I can give you even tablets, and you're able to produce an egg, and then you're able to conceive. If, for example, it's diet, we just modify that, and that improves.
But is it affordable?
But diet is affordable.
No, but sometimes doctors, my viewers there, they say things are too expensive.
And it depends on what is your problem. Because
So they
if the problem is much more advanced, that the tubes are blocked and the man's sperms are very little, then you need to do what they call IVF, vitro fertilization, where you get the sperm of a man and then the egg, and then you try to ensure that we enable you. So that is to the other end.
Now, for that reason,
you might need to do things like laparoscopy,
and that's what adds the cost.
Yeah, so it depends on what your problem is, what is the cause of your infertility. So
now, doctor, because of that, we have options. Like they always say, there's always a cheaper option. We have Bodomola, we have herbalists who will tell you, me, I'll give you a solution. What do you have to say about that?
Like I said, okay, I can't hide the fact that I'm a Christian and I'm born again. And one
the
thing
last I
know,
checked, you were.
Yeah, one thing I know is that if you get to know the truth, it will set you free. And what is the truth? The truth is that if you're giving you the Budomola, but your problem is with the tubes being blocked, it might not help. Of course, if your inability to conceive is because you're not having enough sex with your partner, then even when we are to give you all the medication, the Budomolas, might not help, because what you need literally is to have more sex.
Doctor, have you had an experience where someone used Kadomola and conceived?
Well, I'm not a herbalist, but like I said, the more we tend to make more love, the more our chances of conceiving. If you've taken your Kadomola and it's coinciding with the science, then maybe you'll conceive. But when you conceive, it might be harder to know whether it's a Kadomola or this. But at least one thing I know with science, when I add 1 teaspoon of sugar, I expect a particular quality of sweetness.
So many people were actually telling me that they were swindled a lot of money from the herbalists.
Because they never put in the truth.
But I mean, where do we find the truth? Because these are people who have hit Mulago, been told what to do, done it, didn't work, went to herbalists. Of course, herbalists sometimes didn't work, came back. So along the way, they think God just helped me and I got a baby. But what I want to ask is, for men, what are the solutions for the men infertility? Because they are not loud as women.
Yes, but still, if you're just having premature ejaculation, for example, like before even you penetrate, you already poured the fluids out, maybe for you might not need IVF. It's just about counseling and how to go about. If you're someone who is smoking and drinking heavily, sometimes it's just cutting down the drinking and the smoking that can solve your problem. But in the event that you have a low sperm count, sometimes if you are between 10 and 20 million, you need about 15 million sperms to enable a woman to conceive. But if it's between 10 and maybe like 14, sometimes you concentrate that semen and they do what they call in utero insemination, where we get the sperms, purify them and just put them beyond the cervix. So that is what we call IUI. But in the event that your sperms are too low, less than 1 million, then we do what they call IVF. And if they are even further lower, or in case you find yourself, you thought you're done with having the children, and then they closed off the varices, they closed off literally the what they call vasectomy. Then we are able to aspirate the sperms, but you do what they call IVF still with ICSI, and then we should be able to.
So the solutions are here in Uganda?
They could be there.
They could be there.
No, they are in Uganda, but of course it depends on how severe the problem
The problem is.
Yes,
Are there
some men
situations
totally
which we
don't have any
can't?
sperms.
Oh my God, some men don't have any sperm. Anyway.
They might need donor sperms, or they might need also sometimes women can also have conditions like endometriosis and many more, that their quality of eggs is also poor. So they might need to get a donor egg.
In Uganda, do we do where a woman carries another woman's baby?
Surrogacy, yes.
Yeah, we do it.
This is available.
But is it affordable?
Yeah, it's affordable.
So can people reach out to you, Dr. Herbert, if they have any questions? Because I can't exhaust all the questions on the show. As you see, our time is running out. But can they contact you?
Yes.
Can you share your number?
Yes, it's fine. And I'm at Case also, this hospital. I'm usually there every day, 3 to 6 in the afternoon, apart from Saturday, Monday to Sunday. So I'm happy to meet
anyone who needs help. So my other question, Doctor, as we wrap up, so for women who they are able to conceive, the couple conceives, but they keep having dead babies, miscarriages, stillbirths, for so many things, what would be the causes of that?
In addition to praying, because some things can never get except by praying and fasting.
Yes.
We can do other things, because sometimes it's what they call an phospholipid syndrome. We might just need to add a bit of aspirin. For some particular women, they have hormonal problems, and we might need to give them things like duphaston, hormonal support. For some women, their cervixes are weak, and we might need to put a stitch to be able to mitigate that problem. So, yeah, when you come, there are solutions, and it would be ideal also not to delay to have children, because time comes, like especially after 40.
Abasajja tubanoonya tetubalaba.
Mwaka gwa kunoonya abasajja. There is a call.
Mwetege.
Yes. So, but it would be good, because God does things in the right season. Yeah, so it would be advisable that in the right season, you do the right thing. So
as we close, finally, what do you have to tell my people who are struggling silently? Because this is mostly a silent battle. You rarely meet people who talk about it. Even when you can tell that they are struggling, they rarely don't even want to talk about it. What would you advise them as couples, men and women, as
I
we
want to
close?
appreciate you for this show, because you reach out to that person who feels like there is no hope. And one thing I know, that there is hope, but we just have to know, step one, identify what is your problem. And when you get to know the problem, then you can, in medicine, when you get to know what is the problem, then you're 90% of the problem solved. So get to know the actual problem. Step two, get a support system. Find a healthy way in which you're going to be able to pour out your emotions. Maybe you might need to talk to a counselor, you might need to talk to a good doctor, you might need to go to your pastor and you pray about it. And then it's good also to know that what are those options that are available for you. So, and those could be some of the ways in which we should be able to know how best to help out.
Okay.
Yeah, so not every closed door is locked. It's not that the fact that
You need to try and open.
you might need to try. Maybe
open.
something will open up for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Herbert. We cannot continue this as always. Conversation Egweyocha. I am so sorry for those that still wanted this to continue. We'll bring Dr. Herbert next time. But for now, I would like you to watch, share with your friends who are going through infertility. Let them watch this. Get the details. Help out someone. Don't just see this and keep quiet. For now, I am sorry. I have to close this hot conversation and say thank you so much, Dr. Herbert, for the time. For sure, he's so busy, but he spared time for my viewers to watch this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I look forward to seeing you with babies that are struggling. Bye.